Hello and welcome back to Commercial Radio, to Creating Content. We are currently still busy with Chapter 2, so Creating Content 3, and more specifically commercial content, and this is the third of the 4 classes of commercial content. So in the previous 3, we've looked at, in the previous 2, we looked at promotions in detail, okay? As well as the execution of promotions. We looked at FOBI and about including FOBI in absolutely, and we spoke about including FOBI, okay, within our promotions. And we spoke about FOBI and incorporating FOBI in all of our promotions, features, links, etc. But for this specifically, we're talking about the promotion side of it. So we need to try and bring out that emotive factor in all of our promotions that we do. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today, continuing on this theme, is collaborating with other media, earned media, and paid media. Okay, so we're looking in your textbook at page 229 up until page 235. Looking at radio promotions. On-air promotions and contests are used with the aim to draw in new listeners and get current listeners to tune in more often. But how does this work if the vast majority of listeners are tuning in for the entertainment elements? So let's say the music or the information like the news or the personalities. So they're tuning in for a specific presenter. Radio promotions at the end of the day work to achieve some, if not all, of the following 4 objectives. Firstly, to entertain the passive listener and to get them to listen for longer and talk about the content. What is a passive listener again? The passive listener is the one who will sit and listen to the content without actively getting involved. So they won't phone the station and play a game on air, okay, or ask or answer a question live on air. They'll sit in their car and listen to the content and engage in that way. So they are the passive listeners. Secondly, to engage research participants and get them to play along and therefore listen for longer and to, get them talking about the content. So these research participants that we speak about, that is our active listener. Why? Because if I'm willing to phone a radio station to take part in their competition live on air, I'm a good candidate to also partake in research for the radio station. Number 3 there, to create platforms of engagement for brands and advertisers. Obviously, there's just another platform for them to be able to advertise and for us to make more money. And lastly, to gather detailed data on listeners to benefit both the station and its advertisers. So that data that we're now getting in, we can use in order to see who our average listener is on a specific show or who tunes in at a specific time. And that we can also then take to the advertisers to get them to advertise more on our radio station. So what this means for us is that promotions and contests are often sold to advertisers as they can offer brands a couple of benefits, okay? So if we look at those benefits, they can offer them great on-air audience participation, which then builds brand awareness. They can offer them embedded brand messaging in the radio editorial, various engaging ways to highlight new products or product launches, good communication of short-term objectives. They can offer them the creation of strong, positive brand association, and they can offer them listeners that can be directed to a point of purchase. When you're executing a promotion, it's important to keep in mind what the purpose is of your promotion, okay? Are you entertaining the passive listener and getting them to listen for longer and talking about the content? Because you should be doing that. Your second purpose is to engage the radio contest. Secondly, you're supposed to be engaging the radio contest and research participants to get them to play along and therefore listening longer and talking about the content. Who is this research participant? This is the active listener, okay? So the one that is participating in it. And then thirdly, to create platforms of engagement for brands and advertisers, because this is a perfect platform for them to be advertising. So these 3 stakeholders, the passive listener, the participants or the active listener, and the advertisers will inform the execution process. As a starting point, the details of promotions or contests are provided in a brief or an instruction sheet to the on-air presenters and the production teams. These briefs contain all the commercial details as well as the instructions for how to plan, carry out a promotion. Some briefs will be more comprehensive than others, but it's always the presenter's job. It's always your job as the presenter to make 100% sure that you understand all the mechanics, the exact mechanics and commercial messaging that needs to be delivered. Promotions will usually include audio components that have been created to make it sound exciting and enticing on air, and to encourage listeners to participate. Again, you as a listener should be fully aware of the details of the promotion and be ready to play the correct audio at the correct points during the execution, okay? So as when you are on air, you need to know what should be where. If we look at the execution of the winning moment, this is the moment that the promise is teasing toward, okay? So the execution of the promotion. This is where you're now giving them what you promised them will be coming up, something that is of value to them. The presenters are now performing for only the passive listener. Why? Because the active listener is either playing the game and is fully engaged as a player, or they've now become a passive listener who has to now listen to the others playing the game. So the emphasis will be on the listener who is not playing the game actively, but is listening in. This does sound obvious when I'm stating it like this, but there's a fundamental shift in the execution of a promotion. If the presenter remembers that they are now performing for the listeners and not the people playing actively. An example of this is how a passive listener only needs to understand the mechanics of the competition so that they can follow the content, and they don't need a detailed description of how the game works. However, the details about the mechanics and the rules of the contest need to be given to the active players off air before they go on air to play. Presenters can also get frustrated with listeners who aren't playing the game correctly on air. But again, this should be seen as an opportunity to entertain the passive listener and shouldn't take away from the fubby element just because the contestants are being difficult, okay? So there can still be an element of fun, or you can still give them something useful or bold or daring and different, or a beautiful piece of content or inspiring moment. So if we start by looking at collaborating with other media, most commercial radio stations now have many more channels to offer advertisers and on which to promote their own campaigns and messages than just the on-air linear component, okay? Current radio stations now have website space, social media accounts of their talents, so their presenters usually negotiated with the talent directly, database capturing from their website and social media, SMS data, phone data, direct feedback from listeners, pre and post listener feedback data, on-the-ground activation teams, eventing capabilities, programmatic buying of the generic component of a promotion on those streams, stream-only capabilities, podcasting capabilities, video production capabilities, endorsement with and from their talent, okay? So there's a lot happening. There are a lot more channels available to offer advertisers now than purely radio. Whenever the radio operations team member is designing a promotion or a competition, whether it's for the station directly or as part of their marketing plan, or whether it's for a paying client, they must consider all methods and means of communication available to them. What does it mean when I speak about all the methods and means of communication available to you? So these have been divided into 3 sections, okay? It's divided into owned media, earned media, and paid media. A great marketing strategy is able to leverage all 3 types of media to reach the best possible outcome. So if we start by looking at owned media, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the media that is owned, Okay, so owned media is brand driven and unique to each particular brand. In the context of radio, the radio station's brand can control what is published and shared in the station's voice. The radio station's broadcast output, along with the shows and the content, would be the owned media of the radio station. So the radio station owns its own shows and content, it owns what it puts out on air. Owned media also encompasses all of a brand's web-based platforms. So owned media also, so all of the radio station's web-based platforms would also form part of owned media. So in this case, it'll be things like your station website, if you have a blog, your station's blogs, your station's social media pages and their platforms. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. Okay, and then if your radio station has a mobile app, it'll own that and any Mobi sites. Okay, so owned media is usually the destination we want the listeners to land on. All of these platforms are populated with content that the radio station's digital content team has access to and is responsible for using in a way that promotes and enhances the station's image, okay, and supports the advancement of the station's business objectives. The more ways in which you can extend your brand using owned media, the more opportunities there are to extend your brand's presence within the digital sphere. A wider presence, in turn, gives the radio station a better chance of people seeing, hearing, feeling and understanding their messages, which then drives the objective of having more people consume and engage with the station's content. Owned media is usually the destination we want the listener. So if we see owned media as the destination that we want listeners to land on, then we can look at earned media as the transportation device that we use to get the listeners to land there. Okay, so earned media would kind of be the transportation device to get people to land on our owned media. Okay, so earned media then is consumer driven. So in the case of radio stations, it's listener driven. It's the best type of digital content because it's free and more likely to be trusted by the listeners, okay, so by the consumers. However, it's also the worst type of content because we have little to no control over it, okay, because we don't own it. In the very democratized space that the web and the world of digital is in, anyone can pretty much say anything and you can't control it. So in essence, what this means is they can say anything about your radio station, your competition, the music, the topics you cover, and the contents and the comments your station makes on air. However, the word earned is just that, okay? So if your digital marketing and communication strategies are well planned, then you'll earn favor and positive comments and participation from your audiences. This is valuable because the station doesn't have to pay anyone to say nice things about them. The listeners do so out of their own free will. So in this way, earned media is the modern digital version of good public relations, so good PR. It's the word of mouth marketing and commentary that individuals publish online and their own media platforms. Earned media for a radio station can be found anywhere where people can leave their own comments. So for example, in the comments page of websites, mobile sites or social media platforms, in traditional media like newspapers or TV shows where people mention the radio station, and on social media feeds, particularly in hashtag feeds for tags that relate to or are created by the radio station. These are all pieces of content that are controlled by the third party. So, for instance, Facebook is controlled by Facebook, Twitter is controlled by Twitter, etc., etc. Okay. Interestingly though, for radio stations, any posts published by presenters are counted as earned media. Okay, so anything that my presenters at a radio station post would be seen as earned media because the radio station does not own or have access to those social media accounts. So they might channel, their social media content through their own platforms, which can also include accounts on Twitter and Instagram, specific event microsites, that kind of stuff. But they can't, for example, post a tweet about how great DJ Fresh's show is using DJ Fresh's personal account. Only DJ Fresh can do that. And while we might argue with station operators that it's in his best career interests to show his support for the station, that he works for on social media, he's under no obligation to do so. Okay, so no presenter is under obligation to post about their show. So these are words that are normally associated with earned media specifically. So reviews, posts, shares, comments, mentions, and reposts, okay? There are many ways in which we can generate earned media for a radio station, but the most obvious is search engine optimization, so SEO, and content marketing, which means using the station's voice to start and contribute to online conversations. Earned media itself is measured in terms of 3 different criteria. And firstly, it's traffic, not referring to the traffic on the road, okay, referring to traffic on websites. So how many people or visitors the content brings to owned media platforms, like the website or the mobile site. So we can see all of those stats, okay? You can see exactly how many people looked at your website on which day. Secondly, there then is engagement. So how many comments, shares, and likes did we get from our content that we posted? Especially Facebook, people love, especially Facebook here, okay? And then thirdly, sentiment. This refers to whether what people are saying is positive, negative, or neutral about the radio station, okay? So we look at what people are saying. So after owned media and earned media, we get paid media, okay? So paid media is driven by distribution. It involves the marketing team of the radio station investing part of the marketing budget into promoting certain types of content on certain platforms. At its core, this is what content marketing is. The aim of buying media online is to gain a wider reach for the content posted on your owned media platforms. So whatever is on my website, on my whatever is on the radio, whatever is on my website, on my Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media pages. The idea here is then to gain a wider reach for the content that I post on my own media platforms, and to drive more traffic to those platforms. Okay, this in turn should drive more earned media. So do you see how the 3 then comes together? Okay, so I pay for content that I've posted on my own media sites, which will then generate more earned media for me. A good paid media strategy means that for minimal investment, okay, so much less than a TV ad or buying ad space in a magazine or a newspaper, a radio station can develop a strong presence among all listeners in its particular target market. Paid media is obtained by purchasing ad space and opportunities from online and social media companies. This is how Facebook, Twitter, Google, Tumblr, Instagram, etc. Generate revenue. So apart from the cost of the data you use to access your social media accounts, these are completely free, okay? You didn't have to subscribe or become a member to anything. You didn't have to subscribe to them or become a member. You just have an account that's free. So how do they make their money as a business? The answer is through paid media. The answer is through paid media advertising. Influencers will also fall into this category. Companies, including radio stations, can pay influential individuals who have a strong online following and who know how to craft strong content that their followers will be interested in order to promote their products. There are several types of paid media, and these include cost per click promotional campaigns, sponsored and promoted posts, influencer posts where influencers are partnered with a brand, retargeting strategies, banners and display ads, and newsletter insertions. If we look at page 233 in your textbook, there's an example 60, okay? And this is an example of paid media. So reading it, it states, the following figures demonstrate how paid media in a popular newsletter would work. In this fictional scenario, Oakleaf.com has an industry email newsletter that offers space for paid adverts. This space is bought by advertising agencies such as Misa Ultimate. So there's a, if you turn around to page 234, there's an ad, okay, so paid ad in a newsletter, and then below that there's a 6.6. That's just information about advertising in the newsletter, okay? So the one is a paid ad in a newsletter, and one is more information about the newsletter. There's more information about advertising in the newsletter. So in figure 6.5, that's the ad. The advertising agency called Thumbprint Marketing has paid for advertising in an Oakleaf's newsletter. In an Oakleaf.com newsletter, the newsletter appears in subscriber inboxes. If a subscriber is interested in the content, they can click on an advert, which will redirect them to the Thumbprint Marketing site for more info. Okay. 6.6 provides information about how to advertise in the Oakleaf.com newsletter. The red text is clickable content. So if you look at that space, there's clickable content there, which leads to the website pages where you must provide the required information in order to be able to advertise in the newsletter. So those clickable contents are called backlinks, and the backlinks take you to their individual, so take you to those pages, okay? What you need to remember is that all these types of media can be utilized by a radio station to market a promotion. This includes any type of advertising campaign or objective the station might have. This includes any type of advertising campaign or objective that the station might have. When selling a campaign to a client, the types of owned, earned, or paid media that will be used will inform the cost of that specific campaign, as well as determine how the campaign will run alongside the on-air plan. So if you look at activity 6B on page 235, number 1, there says provide short definitions of owned, earned, and paid media in your own words. So owned media, then, that's the media that the radio station owns. So their content and music and shows on air, as well as their website, any apps, Mobi sites, podcasts, etc. Okay, anything that the radio station owns. Earned media is exactly that, media that I've earned. Earned media is anywhere where a comment can be left. So whether it's on a social media page, whether it's on a website, okay, whether it's on a TV program about the radio station, whether it's in a newspaper, etc. So it can be reviews, shares, posts, mentions. And then paid media is the media that I pay for. everything on the specific slide in front of us. So influencers will fall under here. Cost per click, promotional campaigns, sponsored and promoted posts, banners and display ads, newsletter insertions, etc. Okay. And then number 2 there, match the following media types in column A with the correct examples in column B. So column A says owned media, earned media, and paid media. And then column B says number 1, a listener tweeting that they love the song playing right now on KFM. Number 2, a sponsored Instagram post promoting a clothing competition that Metro FM is running. And number 3, a radio station uploading a video of their breakfast show team competing in a charity challenge on their YouTube channel. So column A, number A, owned media goes with 3. So owned media goes with the radio station uploading the video. Number 2, earned media will go with, or B rather, earned media will go with number 1 in column B, which is a listener tweeting that they love the song playing right now. And then C, paid media, goes with column B, number 2, a sponsored Instagram post. Okay. So again then, just to summarize, earned media is publicity or exposure gained from methods other than paid advertising. So here's just a way of showing you how the 3 fits together. So at the left in the red, you've got your earned media, which is sharing. So mentions, shares, reposts, reviews. Then you have your owned media, which is your radio station, okay, all the content and shows, music, well, all the content and shows, okay, on the radio station. It's the radio station's website, mobile site, blog site, social media channels. And then you have your paid advertising, which is your pay-per-click, your display ads, retargeting, paid influencers, paid content promotion, social media ads. And then in this case, you have little bits of in-betweeners here, okay? So if you look at the middle here, so in the middle of this, it says you should leverage owned, earned, and paid media together for a comprehensive marketing strategy. Okay, so utilizing all 3 is the best for a comprehensive marketing strategy. In between paid and owned media here, we can gain more exposure to our web properties such as SEO, okay, search engine optimization. In between the earned and the owned media, it speaks about search engine optimization again and brand content, which drives earned media, so the sharing and traffic. And in between the earned and the paid media here, we can propel sharing and engagement with a paid promotion, okay? So in essence, what it is you can think about earned media, owned media, and paid media as like a tripod. Each element is an important part of the whole and can contribute to a complete marketing strategy. So to a complete marketing strategy for a radio station. But to sum it up once again, earned media is the publicity or exposure gained from methods other than paid advertising. So word of mouth, okay? This is why word of mouth is so important. Owned media then again, and that's anything that you as the station control and that's unique to your brand, okay? So anything that the station, anything you as a station can control and that's unique to your brand. Paid media, paid media in essence is the marketing that you pay for, okay? So it's used to promote content in order to drive earned media, as well as direct traffic to your owned media, okay? So paid media is the marketing that you pay for. It's used to promote content in order to drive earned media, as well as direct traffic to your owned media. Okay, so you see how everything kind of fits in one there. Owned media sites are an extension of your brand, and they create individual avenues for people to interact with your brand. When it comes to owned media, the more the merrier, okay? So the more different platforms you have, the better. When we look at earned media, good SEO and content strategies are the most controlled and the most effective. The paid media, again, is a great way to promote your content in order to generate more earned media and can also be used to drive traffic directly to your own media properties, or directly to your own media, can drive traffic directly, and can also be used to drive traffic directly to your own media. Okay, and that brings me to the end of this lesson. So in the next lesson, we'll be looking more at how to write a copy that will excite and engage the audience, okay, and that'll sell the promotion effectively. So we're continuing with this promotion theme through how to sell a message and a call to action. And with that, I say goodbye for now. So until next time, goodbye.